The massive alien vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere like a dark moon falling from the heavens. Its hull stretched nearly 10 kilometers from bow to stern, casting shadows across entire cities as it settled into a hover above the Pacific Ocean. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the window of the International Space Station, watching humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life unfold below. "My God," she whispered into her comm headset. "It's actually happening." On Earth, panic gripped the major cities. Traffic jams stretched for miles as people fled urban centers. Emergency broadcasts filled every channel, urging calm while world leaders scrambled to respond. But the alien ship simply waited, motionless above the waves, as if giving humanity time to process what was occurring. Ambassador Kethvar of the Galactic Concordance stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, Dominion's Edge, studying the primitive blue world below. His elongated form towered over the control consoles, his 4 arms moving gracefully as he reviewed the sensor data. Like most members of his species, the Zephyrians, Kethvar had evolved on a high-gravity world, giving him dense bones and powerful muscles beneath his scaled gray-green skin. "Initial scans confirm our assumptions, Ambassador," reported Science Officer Thale, her voice carrying the melodic tones typical of her aquatic homeworld. "Primitive chemical rockets, basic nuclear technology, crude electromagnetic communications, they haven't even achieved reliable fusion power." Kethvar's vertical pupils contracted as he considered this information. The Galactic Concordance had protocols for dealing with primitive species. Usually, first contact involved a careful introduction to galactic civilization, followed by gradual technological uplift under concordant supervision. These humans appeared to be at the perfect stage for integration as a client species. "Have you detected any orbital infrastructure?" he asked. "Minimal," Thale replied, her webbed fingers dancing across her console. "A small space station, a few satellites, nothing that suggests spacefaring capability beyond their immediate planetary vicinity." Commander Vexelan, the ship's military advisor, stepped forward. His insectoid features clicked with satisfaction. "Perfect! Another world to add to the Concordance's sphere of influence. These humans should be grateful for the opportunity to serve a higher civilization." Kethvar raised one of his 4 hands. "Patience, Commander. We must follow proper protocols. Begin standard first contact procedures." Below on Earth, every radio telescope, satellite dish, and communication array suddenly received the same message, transmitted in dozens of Earth languages simultaneously. The voice was mechanical, clearly generated by translation software, but the words were unmistakable. "Greetings, inhabitants of the 3rd planet. I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Galactic Concordance. We come in peace to welcome your species into the galactic community. Prepare your leaders for formal contact." In the Situation Room beneath the White House, President Martinez sat surrounded by her cabinet, military advisors, and the world's leading scientists. The room buzzed with quiet conversations as experts analyzed every word of the alien message. "They want to talk to our leaders," she said, looking around the table. "The question is, which leaders?" "The United Nations would be the logical choice," suggested Secretary of State Williams. "They represent all of humanity." General Patterson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, shook his head. "With respect, Madam President, we don't know their intentions. This could be an invasion force. We should prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the president's science advisor, had been unusually quiet during the discussion. Finally, she spoke up. "There's something bothering me about their transmission. They assumed we would understand their message, which means they've been monitoring our communications. But they also seem to have underestimated our technological capabilities." "What do you mean?" President Martinez asked. "Their language analysis is sophisticated, yes, but their assessment of our technology appears to be based on passive observation. They see our rockets, our nuclear plants, our satellites, but they don't see our true capabilities. In a secure facility hidden deep within the Nevada desert, Dr. James Morrison received an encrypted communication from Washington. As head of the Aurora Project, he commanded humanity's most closely guarded secret. For 30 years, his team had been developing technology that officially didn't exist. Morrison walked through the underground hangar, past sleek craft that defied conventional physics. The Aurora fighters hung in their maintenance cradles like sleeping predators, their hulls composed of metamaterials that could bend light around them. But even these weren't humanity's greatest achievement. At the far end of the hangar sat the Prometheus, a starship that represented the culmination of decades of secret research. Its fusion drive could propel it to near-light speeds, while its quantum communication array could maintain contact across interstellar distances. Most importantly, its existence was known only to a handful of people worldwide. "Sir," called out Dr. Lisa Park, his chief engineer, "we're receiving updates from the surface. The aliens are requesting a meeting." Morrison nodded grimly. "Continue preparations. If this goes badly, we need to be ready." High above, Kethavar reviewed the responses coming from the planet's surface. Multiple factions were attempting to communicate, each claiming to represent humanity. The situation was chaotic, but not unusual for a primitive world. "Ambassador," Thala reported, "we're receiving a coordinated response from their largest governmental alliance. They're requesting a meeting in 7 of their planetary rotations." "Acceptable," Kethavar replied. "That will give us time to complete our detailed scans and prepare appropriate terms for their integration into the concordance." But as the alien ship's sensors swept across Earth's surface, they missed the carefully shielded facilities scattered across the globe. They failed to detect the quantum computers hidden beneath CERN, the antimatter research stations disguised as corporate headquarters, and the fusion reactors powering cities while masquerading as conventional power plants. Most critically, they completely overlooked the massive construction facility on the far side of the moon, where humanity had been assembling something extraordinary for the past 15 years. Colonel Sarah Kim floated in the low-gravity environment of lunar base Artemis, watching through radiation-shielded windows as the final components were installed on humanity's first true Starship. The New Horizon stretched over 2 kilometers in length, its sleek hull gleaming with the blue-white glow of its antimatter containment fields. "How much longer?" she asked Chief Engineer Rodriguez. 72 hours for final systems integration," he replied. "The quantum drive tests completed successfully yesterday. We're ready for anything." Back on Earth, the week passed with tense negotiations conducted through radio transmissions. The aliens insisted on meeting representatives from what they termed your primitive governing councils. They offered technological gifts and membership in their galactic concordance in exchange for Earth's acceptance of their guidance and protection. World leaders debated behind closed doors. Some advocated acceptance, arguing that resistance would be futile against such obviously superior technology. Others counseled caution, suspicious of the aliens' patronizing tone and vague promises. President Martinez found herself in the latter camp. "They keep referring to us as primitive," she told her advisors during one late-night session. "They assume we'll be grateful for their protection. That doesn't sound like an alliance between equals." "What choice do we have?" asked Secretary Williams. "Their ship could probably destroy our entire civilization." "Maybe," the president replied. "But maybe not." On the 7th day, as planned, a small shuttle detached from the alien vessel and descended toward the United Nations headquarters in New York. The craft landed gracefully in the plaza, its crystalline hull gleaming in the morning sunlight. Crowds of reporters and protesters had gathered, despite heavy security, creating a circus atmosphere around humanity's first diplomatic contact with another species. Ambassador Kethvar emerged from the shuttle, accompanied by two aides. His imposing figure cut through the crowd like a knife, his four arms gesturing dismissively at the primitive security measures surrounding him. To his eyes, the humans looked exactly as expected, small, weak creatures stumbling around their gravity well with barely functional technology. Inside the General Assembly Hall, representatives from every nation on Earth waited in tense silence. Kethvar strode to the podium with casual arrogance, his translator device converting his words into dozens of human languages simultaneously. "Primitive peoples of Earth," he began, "I bring greetings from the Galactic Concordance. We have observed your species' recent emergence into space and have come to offer you a place in our galactic civilization." He paused, studying the assembled humans with something approaching pity. "We understand this must be overwhelming for beings of your limited technological development. Do not fear. Under Concordance guidance, your species will be protected and gradually elevated to serve useful roles in our society." A murmur ran through the assembly. Secretary General Chen Lui rose from her seat. "Ambassador Kethvar, we appreciate your offer. However, we have some questions about the terms of this arrangement." Kethvar's vertical pupils dilated slightly. "Terms? There are no terms to negotiate. Membership in the Concordance is a privilege we extend to worthy primitive species. You will provide tribute in the form of raw materials and labor. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy and provide you with technology appropriate to your current level of development." "I see," Secretary General Chen replied carefully. "And if we decline your generous offer?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Kethvar's four hands clasped behind his back as he studied the small human with newfound interest. "That would be inadvisable," he said slowly. "The galaxy is full of dangers that primitive species cannot comprehend. Pirates, resource raiders, hostile empires. Without our protection, your world would be defenseless. Surely you understand the wisdom of accepting our guidance." In the back of the assembly hall, President Martinez listened through her earpiece to the translations being provided by her staff. Every word confirmed her worst suspicions. This wasn't first contact between equals. This was a protection racket on a galactic scale. She activated her secure communicator and sent a single coded message to Dr. Morrison in Nevada. "Execute Option Omega." Across the globe, hidden facilities began powering up systems that had been dormant for years. On the moon, Colonel Kim received her activation codes and began final launch preparations for the New Horizon. Deep beneath the ocean, fusion reactors that had been operating in stealth mode for decades suddenly revealed their true capabilities as they fed power into humanity's secret defense grid. But on the surface, the diplomatic charade continued. Secretary General Chen maintained her composure despite the alien ambassador's barely veiled threats. "We would, of course, need time to consider such an important decision," she said diplomatically. Kethvar's expression showed mild amusement. "Naturally, we will allow your primitive governing councils 3 of your planetary rotations to reach the obvious conclusion. I trust you will make the wise choice." As the alien ambassador departed, returning to his shuttle with the same casual arrogance he had displayed upon arrival, he remained completely unaware that humanity's true response was already beginning. Hidden sensors had analyzed his ship's hull composition, weapons signatures, and shield frequencies. Quantum computers had been modeling his technology for the past week, searching for weaknesses. Most importantly, deep space monitoring stations had detected something the Galactic Concordance hadn't bothered to look for. They weren't the only alien presence in the solar system. Long-range sensors had identified several cloaked vessels lurking at the edge of the system, ships that belonged to none of the Concordant species. As Kethvar's shuttle docked with the Dominion's edge, he reported to his superiors with satisfaction. "The primitives are properly intimidated. They will accept our terms within the allotted time. But in the depths of space, other eyes watched the proceedings with very different intentions. The Korthax Syndicate had been tracking Concordance expansion for decades, always arriving just after new worlds were integrated to claim their share of the spoils. Earth looked like another easy prize. What none of them realized was that humanity had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone suspected. The first alien signals had been detected and decoded 60 years ago, leading to the most classified research program in human history. Everything that followed had been carefully planned. Earth wasn't primitive. Earth was ready. The 3 days passed with agonizing tension across Earth's surface. News networks ran continuous coverage of the alien ship hanging motionless above the Pacific, while governments maintained the careful illusion of deliberation. Behind the scenes, however, humanity was moving with purpose and precision that would have shocked their unwelcome visitors. Dr. James Morrison stood in the Aurora Project's primary command center, watching displays that showed the true scope of Earth's hidden capabilities. Fusion reactors that had been disguised as conventional power plants for decades now operated at full capacity. Orbital defense platforms that looked like communication satellites were charging their particle beam arrays. Most importantly, the quantum communication network was coordinating responses across the globe with split-second timing. "Status report," Morrison called out to his operations team. "All Aurora fighters are fueled and ready," reported Colonel Stevens. "Pilots are standing by in the ready rooms." "Lunar Base Artemis reports the New Horizon completed final systems checks 30 minutes ago," added Lieutenant Chang. "Colonel Kim is requesting permission to begin acceleration toward the outer system." Morrison nodded. "Not yet. We need to wait for the Syndicate ships to make their move." On the moon, Colonel Sarah Kim floated in the command center of humanity's most advanced starship, watching long-range sensor displays that tracked the hidden fleet at the edge of the solar system. The Korthax Syndicate vessels had been holding position for 2 days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Ma'am," called out Navigator Torres, "the Syndicate ships are beginning to move. Looks like they're planning to jump in right after the deadline expires." Kim smiled grimly. The Korthax were predictable, at least. They always waited for Concordance forces to soften up new worlds before moving in to claim salvage rights. What they didn't know was that every move they'd made had been tracked and analyzed. "Excellent. Signal Earth that the party is about to begin." Back on the alien mothership, Ambassador Kethvar reviewed reports from his science team with growing satisfaction. Their deep scans of Earth had confirmed what he already knew. Humanity possessed nothing that could threaten Concordance technology. Their most advanced weapons were primitive nuclear devices. Their space capabilities extended barely beyond their own moon. "Sir," reported Science Officer Thale, "we're detecting increased electromagnetic activity across the planet. It appears to be communication traffic related to their decision-making process." "Panic and confusion," Commander Vexilon observed with clicking satisfaction. "Typical behavior for primitives facing inevitable surrender." Kethvar gestured dismissively with 2 of his 4 arms. "Let them have their dramatic deliberations. In a few hours, they'll accept reality." What the Concordance sensors couldn't detect was the true nature of that electromagnetic activity. Quantum-encrypted signals were coordinating the movements of forces that existed in dimensions the aliens had never bothered to scan. Stealth technology developed from captured alien artifacts decades earlier kept humanity's real capabilities invisible. In Geneva, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before a massive holographic display showing the deployment of Earth's secret defenses. Aurora fighters were launching from hidden facilities on every continent, their metamaterial hulls rendering them invisible to conventional sensors. Orbital platforms were coming online, their weapon systems powering up behind false facades. "The deception has held perfectly," she reported to President Martinez via secure quantum link. "They still think we're helpless primitives playing with chemical rockets." "And the Syndicate fleet?" the president asked. 47 ships detected so far, all holding at the heliopause. Our analysis suggests they're raiders, not a military force. They're waiting for the Concordance to break our defenses before moving in to claim salvage. President Martinez felt a cold satisfaction. Humanity had learned much from intercepted alien communications over the decades. The galaxy was full of predators who preyed on newly contacted worlds. The Concordance played the role of civilized protectors while secretly enslaving entire species. The Syndicate followed behind to strip away whatever resources remained. "Time to show them both what humans are really capable of," she said. The deadline arrived with Earth's governments maintaining radio silence. No response came from the primitive world below, no desperate acceptance of Concordance protection. Ambassador Kethvar felt a flicker of annoyance at the delay. "Typical primitive behavior," he muttered. "They probably think they can negotiate from a position of weakness." Commander Vexaland's mandibles clicked eagerly. "Perhaps a demonstration of our power would help them understand reality, Ambassador." Kethvar considered this. The Concordance preferred to avoid damaging useful infrastructure, but some primitive species required forceful persuasion. "Very well. Target one of their smaller population centers. Nothing that would cause significant casualties, just enough to demonstrate our capabilities." As the Dominion's Edge began charging its main weapon systems, long-range sensors finally detected something that made Science Officer Thale pause in confusion. "Ambassador, I'm reading energy signatures from the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Configuration unknown." Before Kethvar could respond, space around the Concordance vessel suddenly erupted in chaos. The Korthax Syndicate fleet materialized from hyperspace, their ships emerging in perfect attack formation. 47 vessels ranging from nimble raiders to massive dreadnoughts spread across the solar system like a closing fist. "Syndicate ships!" Commander Vexaland shouted, his voice rising to a shriek. "They're moving to claim the planet." The lead Syndicate vessel, a kilometer-long battle cruiser bristling with weapon pods, opened communications. The voice that emerged was harsh and mechanical, translated from the guttural Korthax language. "Concordance vessel, you will withdraw immediately. This world falls under Syndicate salvage rights. We claim all resources and surviving population as legitimate spoils of war." Kethvar's elegant features twisted with rage. "This is outrageous. We discovered this world first. The Concordance has legal claim under galactic law." "Galactic law recognizes strength," the Korthax commander replied. "You have one ship. We have 47. Withdraw or be destroyed." On Earth, humanity watched the alien fleets face off above their world with cold calculation. Long-range sensors tracked every ship, analyzing their weapons, shield frequencies, and tactical deployments. The moment they had waited decades for had finally arrived. "Sir," Dr. Park called out from her station, "both fleets are fully committed. The Syndicate ships are moving into attack formation." Morrison studied the tactical display with satisfaction. "Perfect. Execute Phase 1. Across Earth's surface, what the aliens had dismissed as primitive communication arrays suddenly revealed their true purpose. Massive particle beam projectors emerged from hidden installations, their targeting systems locking onto the alien fleets with impossible precision. The beams that lanced out from Earth's surface weren't the crude lasers the aliens expected. They were coherent antimatter streams that could punch through any known shielding. The first salvo caught both fleets completely by surprise. 3 Syndicate raiders simply vanished, their hulls converted to plasma in milliseconds. A Concordance escort destroyer found its shields overwhelmed before it could even begin evasive maneuvers. "What?" Kethvar began, then stopped as his ship's alarms began screaming warnings. "Energy weapons firing from the planet's surface," Thale reported in shock. "Antimatter-based projection systems. This is impossible." But the surface weapons were only the beginning. Aurora fighters began materializing around both fleets as their stealth systems powered down. The sleek craft moved with impossible agility, their inertial dampeners allowing maneuvers that would have crushed organic pilots. Their weapons were compact versions of the same antimatter projectors firing from Earth's surface. Commander Vexalan watched in horror as primitive human fighters tore through his escort squadron like sharks through a school of fish. How are they doing this? Our sensors showed nothing but chemical rockets. The answer came from an unexpected source. A new contact appeared on long-range sensors, approaching from the direction of Earth's moon. The vessel that materialized was unlike anything in Concordance databases, a sleek predator over 2 kilometers long, its hull glowing with the distinctive blue-white signature of an antimatter drive. Colonel Kim's voice cut through the chaos on all frequencies, transmitted in perfect galactic standard. Unknown fleets, you are in violation of Earth territorial space. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal, or we will open fire with our full defensive capabilities. Kethvar stared at the massive human starship in disbelief. The energy readings were off the charts. This wasn't a primitive chemical rocket. This was a vessel that could match or exceed anything in the Concordance fleet. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They're primitives. Our scans showed—" "Your scans showed exactly what we wanted you to see," Kim's voice replied, somehow detecting his private transmission. "You assumed we were helpless because we didn't advertise our capabilities. That was your first mistake." The Korthax commander, meanwhile, was having his own crisis of understanding. Half his fleet was already burning wreckage, destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist on a world the Concordance had classified as primitive. "All ships, withdraw!" he screamed. "This world is defended!" But withdrawal wasn't an option. As the surviving Syndicate vessels tried to break away, they found their escape routes blocked by additional human ships emerging from stealth. Where there had been empty space moments before, an entire fleet now materialized, destroyers, cruisers, and massive battleships that dwarfed anything the aliens had brought. Dr. Morrison opened a communication channel that reached both alien fleets simultaneously. His voice was calm, professional, and utterly terrifying in its implications. "Gentlemen, welcome to Earth. I'm afraid you've misunderstood the situation here. You see, we've been monitoring galactic civilization for the better part of a century. We know about the Concordance's protection rackets. We know about the Syndicate's salvage operations. We know exactly what you both intended to do to our world." On the Dominion's edge, Kethvar found himself facing a reality that challenged everything he thought he knew about galactic civilization. "You've been watching us? For how long?" "Long enough," Morrison replied. "Long enough to study your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Long enough to prepare an appropriate response." The tactical displays aboard both alien fleets painted a picture of complete encirclement. Human ships had surrounded them in a perfect three-dimensional formation, every weapon trained on their targets. But more shocking than the tactical situation was the technological reality they faced. These weren't the primitive beings they had expected to encounter. Human technology was advanced beyond anything in Concordance databases. Their weapons were more powerful, their ships faster and more maneuverable, their tactics flawless. Science Officer Thal's voice was barely a whisper. "Ambassador, how is this possible? How did a primitive species develop such advanced technology?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice joined the conversation, her tone carrying the weight of decades of preparation. "We had excellent teachers," she said simply. "Every alien ship that crashed on our world, every piece of technology that fell into our hands, every signal we intercepted from your civilizations. We've been learning for generations." Commander Vexalan's mandibles clicked in sudden understanding. The Roswell incident, the disappearances, the ships that never returned from this sector. "Every single one," Vasquez confirmed. We reverse-engineered your technology and improved upon it. We studied your strategies and developed counters. We prepared for this day for longer than most of your species have been spacefaring." The realization hit both alien commanders simultaneously. Earth hadn't been discovered by accident. They had been lured here, drawn by careful manipulation of their own intelligence networks. Every piece of data that had led them to classify Earth as primitive had been carefully crafted disinformation. "You planned this," Kethvar said, his voice hollow with shock. "We planned for this," Morrison corrected. "We knew that first contact would come eventually. We knew it would be hostile. We prepared accordingly." Around the alien fleets, more human ships continued to materialize from stealth. The scope of Earth's hidden space navy was becoming clear. Hundreds of vessels, all equipped with technology that exceeded anything the Concordance could field. But the final shock was yet to come. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures emerging from behind Earth's moon. What appeared was a structure so vast it defied immediate comprehension. A space station over 50 kilometers in diameter, bristling with weapons that made the fleet engagements look like small arms fire. "Fortress Luna," Morrison announced with quiet pride. "Our primary orbital defense platform. We've been building it for 40 years. The alien fleets found themselves facing a simple choice: surrender or die. There was no third option. Earth's defensive capabilities weren't just superior to what they had brought, they were overwhelming. Kethvar made the only rational decision available to him. "Concordance fleet stands down. We request permission to withdraw." The Korthak's commander, his force reduced to less than a dozen ships, could only echo the same sentiment. "Syndicate fleet requests safe passage out of the system." Morrison's response was measured, but the steel beneath it was unmistakable. "Withdrawal is acceptable. However, there will be conditions." The age of human isolation was over. Earth had revealed itself to the galaxy not as a primitive world seeking protection, but as a new power that demanded respect. The Concordance and the Syndicate had come expecting easy prey. Instead, they had found apex predators. The conditions that Dr. Morrison presented to the defeated alien fleets were unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Rather than demanding tribute or territory, Earth's terms were both simple and revolutionary. Complete transparency about galactic civilization, full disclosure of all Concordance and Syndicate activities, and immediate cessation of their predatory practices against developing worlds. Ambassador Kethvar listened in stunned silence as Morrison continued his broadcast from Earth's surface. "Every species you've subjugated, every world you've stripped of resources, every civilization you've destroyed in the name of galactic order. We want detailed records. We want coordinates, population data, and current status reports." "This is unheard of," Kethvar protested. "Galactic records are classified under—" "Under whose authority?" interrupted Colonel Kim from the bridge of the New Horizon. "The same Concordance that just tried to enslave my world? I think we're past worrying about your bureaucracy." Commander Vexland's voice crackled with barely contained rage. "You cannot simply upset the established order of galactic civilization. The Concordance has maintained peace for millennia." Morrison's response was cold as vacuum. "Peace for whom, Commander? For the species you've enslaved? For the worlds you've strip-mined? Your idea of peace looks remarkably like oppression from where we're sitting." As the human fleet maintained its perfect encirclement of both alien forces, Dr. Vasquez transmitted detailed intelligence reports that demonstrated the scope of Earth's knowledge about galactic affairs. Star charts showing Concordance territory, tactical assessments of Syndicate raiding patterns, even intercepted communications revealing the true nature of their relationship. "My God," whispered Science Officer Thale. "They know everything. Our entire operational structure, our classified protocols, even our private communications." The revelation was staggering. Earth hadn't just been passively observing galactic civilization. They had been actively penetrating it, infiltrating communication networks and gathering intelligence on a scale that suggested preparation spanning decades. How? Kethvar demanded. How did you infiltrate our quantum communication networks? Dr. Park's voice joined the conversation from her station on Earth. Quantum mechanics work the same way throughout the universe, Ambassador. Once we reverse-engineered your first crashed ships, developing compatible technology was just a matter of time. We've been listening to your secure channels for 30 years. The implications hit both alien commanders simultaneously. If Earth had been monitoring galactic communications for 3 decades, they knew about every concordance expansion, every syndicate raid, every dirty secret of galactic civilization. But worse than the intelligence breach was the tactical reality they now faced. Human technology wasn't just competitive with galactic standard equipment, it was demonstrably superior. Their weapons were more powerful, their shields more effective, their ships faster and more maneuverable. This changes everything, Kethvar muttered, speaking more to himself than to his crew. If one primitive world could develop such capabilities in isolation, what does that mean for the rest of galactic civilization? Morrison seemed to read his thoughts. It means you've been thinking about this problem from the wrong direction, Ambassador. You assumed that technological development required galactic oversight, that primitive species needed your guidance to advance. But what if the opposite is true? What if your interference has been holding back natural development? The question struck at the core of Concordance philosophy. For millennia, they had justified their expansion by claiming to protect and uplift primitive species. The idea that their intervention might actually be harmful was revolutionary. Colonel Kim activated her ship's long-range sensors and began transmitting detailed scans of both alien fleets to Earth. The data painted a picture of technological stagnation, ships built to 1,000-year-old designs, weapons that hadn't evolved significantly in centuries, defensive systems that relied on brute force rather than innovation. When was the last time either of your civilizations made a significant technological breakthrough? She asked. Not an incremental improvement, but a genuine paradigm shift? The silence that followed was answer enough. Galactic civilization had become comfortable, conservative, content to maintain existing power structures rather than pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge. We've been stagnating, Thale admitted quietly. Recycling old technologies, making minor improvements to established designs. We stopped innovating because we didn't need to. No one could challenge us. Until now, Morrison observed. The next phase of Earth's demands was even more shocking than the first. Rather than seeking to join galactic civilization as a client species, humanity proposed to restructure it entirely. They wanted to establish new protocols for first contact, create protection systems for developing worlds, and most radically, dissolve the existing power structures that kept the galaxy divided between predators and prey. Impossible, Commander Vexilon sputtered. You're one world against thousands of established civilizations. You cannot simply dictate terms to the entire galaxy. Watch us, Kim replied, and her confidence was backed by the massive human fleet surrounding the alien forces. But Earth's true leverage wasn't military, though their technological superiority was undeniable. Their real weapon was information. Over the following hours, human ships began broadcasting detailed intelligence reports across galactic communication networks, classified concordance documents exposing their exploitation of client species, syndicate operational records showing the scope of their raiding activities, financial data revealing the corrupt relationships between supposedly civilized governments and criminal organizations. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the existing galactic order. Worlds that had accepted concordance protection began questioning their relationships. Client species started demanding explanation for resources that had disappeared into Concordance coffers. Independent civilizations realized they had been targeted for future integration. "You're destabilizing the entire galactic political structure," Kethvar accused. "We're revealing the truth," Vasquez replied. "If your political structure can't survive transparency, then maybe it needed to be destabilized." On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, beings who had never heard of Earth were suddenly learning about humanity's confrontation with their supposed protectors. The broadcasts were impossible to stop, transmitted through quantum channels that Earth had apparently been preparing for decades. Admiral Zeftos, Supreme Commander of the Concordance Navy, received emergency communications from across the galaxy as the scope of the revelation became clear. Client species were demanding independence. Protected worlds were questioning their tribute obligations. Most dangerously, several advanced civilizations were beginning to ask why they had never been informed about Earth's technological capabilities. "Sir," reported his aide, "we're receiving priority communications from the High Council. They want immediate clarification about the Earth situation." Zeftos studied the tactical reports from the Sol system with growing dread. A single Concordance exploration vessel and its escorts faced off against what appeared to be a technologically superior human fleet. Worse, intelligence suggested that what they could see was only a small fraction of Earth's actual defensive capabilities. "How many ships would we need to retake the system?" he asked his strategic planning staff. The response was sobering. "Conservative estimates suggest at least a full battle fleet, sir. Possibly two. And that's assuming their technology doesn't exceed our projections." "And the political cost of such an operation? With these broadcasts reaching every corner of the galaxy? Catastrophic, sir. We'd be seen as aggressors attacking a technologically superior species that was defending itself." Back in the Sol system, Morrison was presenting the final phase of Earth's proposal, a new galactic organization based on voluntary cooperation rather than coercive protection. The United Species Coalition would be governed by representatives from all member civilizations, with strict prohibitions against interfering with developing worlds. "You're describing anarchy," Kethvar protested. "Without central authority, the galaxy will descend into chaos." "We're describing freedom," Morrison corrected. "The right of every species to develop according to their own nature, without interference from self-appointed guardians. And if they develop into threats? If they become aggressive, expansionist species that endanger others?" Kim's response was cold as space. "Then we deal with them the same way we're dealing with you. We prepared for this confrontation for decades because we knew what galactic civilization was really like. If other species choose aggression, they'll find us ready." The demonstration of that readiness came in the form of additional human ships emerging from stealth throughout the solar system. What had already been an overwhelming display of force doubled, then tripled in size. Hundreds of vessels materialized, all equipped with technology that exceeded anything in Concordance databases. But the most stunning revelation was yet to come. Deep space sensors detected massive energy signatures from the edge of the solar system, followed by the emergence of structures that defied immediate comprehension. Fortress stations, each the size of small moons, appeared at strategic points throughout human space. "Fortress stations Alpha through Gamma are now online," reported Dr. Park from Earth. "All defensive systems are operational." The scope of Earth's preparations became clear. Humanity hadn't just built a fleet. They had fortified their entire star system with defensive installations that could hold off invasion fleets from multiple directions simultaneously. Kethvar found himself facing a choice that would define the future of galactic civilization. He could accept Earth's terms and help create a new order based on cooperation and mutual respect, Or he could refuse and watch as humanity's broadcasts destroyed the concordance from within, while their military superiority made retaliation impossible. "If we accept your proposal," he said slowly, "what happens to existing concordance territory, to our client species?" "They become free to choose their own path," Morrison replied. "Full independence, voluntary association with the new coalition, or continued relationship with a reformed concordance, but no more tribute, no more forced protection, and no more exploitation." The Korthax commander, his remaining ships barely functioning after the human assault, made his own decision. "The Syndicate accepts Earth's terms. We will provide full intelligence on our operational networks and cease all raiding activities." His surrender was pragmatic rather than ideological, but it represented the beginning of a new era. Within hours, similar acceptances were arriving from across the galaxy as news of humanity's confrontation with the established powers spread. Some civilizations chose resistance. The Hegeli Empire declared Earth an enemy of galactic order and began mobilizing their war fleets. The response was swift and decisive. Human ships appeared throughout Hegeli space, their weapons targeting military installations with surgical precision. The Empire's ability to wage war was eliminated in a matter of days. Their population left unharmed, but their government forced to reconsider its position. "How?" demanded Hegeli Admiral Korath as his flagship drifted powerless in space. "How are you everywhere at once?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Sarah Torres, commanding the human destroyer Defiance, revealed the final secret of Earth's preparations. "We've been building ships for 40 years, Admiral, not just in our system but throughout the galaxy. Every asteroid belt, every nebula, every dead system between here and the galactic core. We've been waiting for this day for longer than your species has had space flight." The revolution in galactic civilization was swift and comprehensive. Within months, the concordance had reformed into a voluntary association of species. The Syndicate disbanded entirely, their former members either joining the coalition or returning to legitimate occupations. Most importantly, the practice of exploiting primitive worlds came to an abrupt end. New protocols were established for first contact situations. Instead of the traditional pattern of protection followed by gradual subjugation, developing species were given complete autonomy to determine their own path. Advanced civilizations could offer assistance, but only if requested and without conditions attached. Earth became the de facto capital of this new galactic order, not through conquest, but through respect earned at the point of technological superiority. The United Species Coalition grew rapidly as worlds that had been suppressed for millennia finally had the opportunity to express their true capabilities. Ambassador Kethvar, his perspective radically altered by his encounter with humanity, became one of the coalition's strongest advocates. "We spent so long thinking we were protecting primitive species," he reflected during a council session on Earth. "We never realized we were the ones who needed protection from our own arrogance." Dr. Morrison stood before the assembled representatives of hundreds of species in what had once been the United Nations building. The irony wasn't lost on him that humanity was now hosting beings who had intended to enslave them just months earlier. "The galaxy is vast enough for all of us," he told the gathering. "There's no need for empires or protection rackets or any of the other systems that have divided us into predators and prey. There's only need for cooperation, mutual respect, and the shared goal of advancing all our civilizations together." The applause that followed came from beings who had never expected to see such a day. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves working together. Worlds that had been isolated by the old order discovered they had neighbors eager for peaceful contact. But perhaps the most significant change was philosophical. The galaxy had learned that technological advancement didn't require supervision, that primitive species weren't helpless without guidance, and that diversity of development created strength rather than weakness. Colonel Kim, now promoted to Admiral of Earth's Deep Space Fleet, summed up the transformation during a press conference at Luna Base. "We proved that you don't need to be part of an established civilization to achieve greatness. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from thinking differently, from approaching problems without preconceptions about what's possible." Earth's emergence as a galactic power hadn't just changed the political landscape. It had fundamentally altered how advanced species viewed technological development, first contact protocols, and the very nature of galactic civilization itself. The age of exploitation was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and it all started because a species everyone assumed was primitive turned out to be anything but helpless.